Welcome to CMMS Radio, a podcast and general resource for all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, from selection to implementation to help you make better choices and have a successful CMMS journey. We'll bring in experts along the way to help us learn more about CMMS, facilities operations, and much more. If you need help with the CMMS project, send a message at CMMSradio.com using the What's on Your Mind link. Suggest a topic, share your CMMS story, or ask questions. And I appreciate you making the time too. I mean, considering that you just came off duty, so that's cool. So here we go. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Today, we've got another great journey story, and it ties heavy equipment repair to visual storytelling. We're going to talk to Jake Bailey. He's a versatile heavy equipment repair specialist and a visual storyteller and a mentor. He's the owner of Rising Eagle Field Services and Arkansas's Army National Guard media specialist. Jake, welcome to CMMS Radio.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Now one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is I saw this super cool documentation that you did, the visual storytelling with Brian Bieski, and you were taking pictures as he was doing this heavy equipment repair. And I wanted to first ask you, we'll get to that, but I wanted to ask you, how did you get into heavy equipment repair? Like, what was the kind of journey story in your background that got you there?
So my family, it's like my dad was a pilot for the Army. My mom's a nurse. And so my life never revolved around mechanics ever. But when I was 15, my dad had a 1983 Ford F-250, and that was my first truck when I turned 16. Well, it's a 460. It broke all the time, and it barely survived. And so I had to work on that truck. And then I got a Ford Ranger, worked on that truck. Then my dad got a Power Stroke. And then I was like, whoa, diesels are really cool. So I worked on the Power Stroke. Then I worked on a Duramax. And then I joined the Navy at 18. And I finally have big boy money, which is a whole $900 every paycheck, which is every 2 weeks. And so I'm like, count me in. I'm getting myself a 2500 Dodge Cummins. So we've got a truck. Of course, there's 220,000 miles on it. What happens? It breaks. So I started working on stuff. So that got me into mechanics, and I learned everything via YouTube because I was a military policeman in the Navy, so I never did repairs. I just held weapons and guarded stuff and people. And I just had friends that I worked with that liked repairing stuff, like working on stuff. And then let's fast forward like 6 years. In 2019, I met my wife, Rachel, and COVID was about to start happening. And her dad was a logistics manager for a tree company. He knows I work on vehicles. He's like, hey, I need someone part-time to help work on forestry equipment. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I mean, there's nuts and bolts, can't be that hard. If you take it on, you take it off, you put it back on. And so that got me into heavy equipment because I was like, yeah, these diesel trucks are cool, but like, I just worked on a skid steer. I just worked on a front loader. I just worked on a grinder. I just worked on, these giant pieces of equipment. And I don't know why I fell in love with it, but like a 21 millimeter socket was no longer big. That's just a normal day grabbing a 1/2 inch impact and just going to town. And I was like, dude, this is so cool.
Yeah.
This is so cool. And that's it. That's exactly how it happened. But like, I just like continued to do it. And what happens is you just keep going. And one day you hope you get good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like the passion there and how that can kind of happen. Like, I know for me, when I see these bigger pieces of equipment, like if they're working on the street by my house, or I see something online that's maybe something to do with mining, these big
Oh, I
monsters.
know.
And it's like,
So cool.
it's incredible that these things do what they do. And then for me, like with CMMS radio, I'm kind of more focused on maintenance management, the computerized software part of
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean, that's cool, but this stuff is so important because if it can't be repaired when it breaks down, or if it can't be maintained to prevent the breakdown, everything stops. Everything in the entire world stops. And a lot of people take it for granted. So, like, to have you with that passion where you want to not only fix these machines, but you're enamored by them, and you start to know more and more what they are, and you just, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, just keep on going. I think that's what makes somebody good, is that they care about what they're doing and they know how it affects or impacts the world, not just the business that they're helping. So when you started your company, Rising Eagle Field Services, did that happen? That happened after you got out of the Navy?
Uh, that happened because of a need, not a want. It was
Yeah,
a company I was working for knew I was coming here to get activated for 6 months for school. They let me go about 2 months ahead of time. No ill will to them. It's their choice. They did everything legally, all right?
yeah,
And it was still about 60 days until I got activated. And then so it'd be about another 2.5 months total of a next paycheck. And so I was looking for jobs left and right, as a field mechanic. And a lot of these companies in my local area were like, man, you're a National Guard, you're leaving soon. And I wanted to come out and lie to the companies and not tell them I had school so I could get the job. But at the same time, like
right.
me, like having like the integrity, I was like, hey guys, I just want to be honest. Like, this is what's happening. I'm leaving in October. And they would backpedal. Like, once again, it's nothing wrong. It's like, I understand, like, you got to make profit. You can't bring a kid on. I say kid. I was 29 at the time,
Yeah,
for 2 months, drop all his tools off, and they'll leave. So I had to pay the bills.
yeah,
I had to pay the bills.
yeah,
Bills were coming. I have a daughter. I have a wife. And I've always been an entrepreneur. When I was living in Georgia, I sold my Ranger for an ambulance, and I put a Craftsman toolbox in the back, and I did repairs out of AutoZone for $50
yeah,
an hour. So I was like, screw it. I know enough. I have plenty of tools, and I created this company, made an LLC, and I just started cold calling for days on end, cold calling people of like, just give me a chance, give me a chance, give me a chance. I got 3 jobs. I made enough money to pay all the bills, and that was it. And so now it's just like, well, I'm here, and I mean, we could talk about it more later, but like, I found out visual media. I've been a huge content nerd as a kid. I watched I watched TV a bunch, but then YouTube became a thing. I'm 30, so I was still in that prime teenage years when YouTube became a thing, and I've been enamored. I think it's the right word. I buy
yeah,
YouTube, and I never had the equipment. I never had the knowledge. I spent too much time working on something instead of like creating content behind it. And with this school, I've learned everything when it comes to media: writing, videography, photography, Illustrator, like anything on Adobe we've learned. And this is why I got linked up with Brian, because I'm like, I want to tell a story. I love telling
yeah,
stories. As you see, I don't stop talking. You give me one bit, I'll talk 10 minutes about something because I love telling stories. And I was like, I want to tell that story because there's so many times I have been upside down in 110-degree weather, covered in sand and oil, fixing, I don't know, an undercarriage on a 349, or, drilling undercarriage bolts out, or fixing a roller, like a smooth drum roller isolators because they busted. And this now, can we cuss in here?
yes,
Okay. This isolators are completely fucked off. It's completely sideways. And you're a solo person on your truck and you like fix that problem. And I'm like, people don't realize that. Like, machines are beautiful. The mechanics that fix those machines are gorgeous minded people because they have a problem every day, and it's not in a shop. It's not heated. It's not cooled. It's snowing. It's wet. It's hot. It's everything. And these gentlemen and women go out and they're like, okay. And I was like, I want to capture that. That, like, we get
Yeah.
taught in the school, raw emotion, capture the emotion, capture faces and eyes tell the story. If you tell the story correctly, you get people to watch and listen. And I was like, I want to do that. That's what I
I
want to
think
do.
I think that's amazing. I think it's and I can feel it. And I know we're in a virtual environment, but that's what's nice about this and connecting with people on the podcast. That, you know, like for me, when I saw the images and then the detail that you convey when you present those images, as far as like aperture settings and all these different things, that like it's like people just not only have no idea what happens in the real world oftentimes when it comes to these repairs and the situational environment, hot, cold,
Mm-hmm.
wet, snowy, all this kind of stuff. And then we take the way you're applying your craft, both the knowledge and experience of the actual craft of repairing heavy equipment, the stuff that makes the world go around,
Mm-hmm.
and the way you're approaching it with telling these visual stories. And it sounds like you're learning like essentially everything to be like
It's
a
everything.
complete media monster, like where you can actually create and do it at this kind of level where it's like high end production. I mean, the images that you captured, I've got a buddy that's into photography, and he created a business for architectural photography, 100%
Mm-hmm.
self taught like you, but then got the exposure to some of these other platforms and Adobe and all that. And it's just amazing when you know what goes into the capturing of those
Yeah.
stories, those visual elements. It's not click, it's not like that, not at all. You got so much that has to. So what's your favorite part about telling these stories visually? Like, is there a certain thing you go into it and say, hey, I want to make sure I come away with this, or do you have more of an organic process that just happens on the spot?
So you always have an angle and you always have an approach when you go out. So very typical approach I get is I want to capture the establishing shot. Where are we at? What are we doing? You know, and then from there, like in that photo, it's a photos. We call it a photo story that I made with those nine. I believe I had 9 pictures on LinkedIn uploaded. You know, it's like the beginning, the middle, conflict. Conflict was when Brian took his hand out and you see all that oil. And if you look closely, because the image that was captured, you can see the flakes of all the metal and the brass in there. And I was like, that tells a conflict of like, we were here. I showed you that we got inside of transmission, the transmission box. I believe wrong wording, but and you see that, and then you're like, okay, cool. They're taking off hoses, and then you see that hand come out, and you're like, oh shit. And you see it on his face. And I wish I had a list of like if I was 6 inches to the left, 6 inches on the left, and I would have captured his eyes better. But like I was just clicking as fast as I could, you know, and I barely missed it, but I missed it. I didn't capture the dragon on that one. But it
Yeah.
still told the story of like, dude, this went from like a easy checkup to a customer, we need to talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like always what I'm trying to get, you know, with that kind of repair, like that kind of stuff. But um I mean that's what tells the story. That's what made you look at those photos and like I haven't asked you about the photos, but like but I know that we call it the banger. You know, that's a banger. Like people
All
will
right. All
like
right.
that photo. That's the banger. That's your feature photo. That's the one that people will continuously go back to. Of like,
Yeah.
you know, so that's what I try for, and that's what me being a mechanic. I know what's gonna happen to a point. I know what's gonna be like where the struggle is going to be. So I know where to position myself. I know, like, if, yeah, I know because I've been around these machines. I'm not afraid of the machines. I just like,
Right.
cool. It's another day for me. By the way, it was 23 degrees when we were shooting. You know, actually, no, that's a lie. It's 33, 33.
Okay.
But like, it was cold. Nevertheless, my fingers were frozen. But like, you got to
Yeah.
do it. That's the part of the job.
Yeah, I mean that's like everything. So even if we switch it just for a minute, we
Yeah,
back up and
absolutely.
say what you just said, if we apply that to our everyday world when it comes to things like maintenance management, maintenance and repair, all these kinds of things, there's no way to avoid the work, the things that have to be done, the basic fundamentals. And if the weather's not ideal, nobody cares. If it's a tough spot or positionally it's difficult, nobody cares, because if you want to
Yeah.
get the outcome that you're after, that's what's going to have to be done. There are no shortcuts for what you're doing to capture these stories, and you thankfully have been under the machines, on the machines, and all that kind of stuff to understand where am I going to see this most meaningful shot that people really need to understand about what's really happening here, what's so impactful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. Have you now, is there anything so far as you've been on this part of the journey where you're capturing these visual stories, anything you've done yet in the way of documenting this stuff that was like really crazy, like wild or unexpected?
Not yet. We did a small photo shoot the night before. Um, Actually, it was a team shoot. My roommate and I, um, we contacted. It's not about machines. It's about weapons.
Mm,
And he's a big gun nerd. And he's like, dude, let's go take photos of people at the gun range. I was like, cool. So we show up expecting just for people to go shoot their guns, and that's very common for us in the military. Like every year, twice a year, we like most. We're both National Guardsmen. We're shooting either cruiser weapons or we're shooting M9 pistols or rifles. So us being around guns and shooting them is very like nothing new to us. But what we wanted to go was like go capture the fireball because the fireballs was cool to catch. The coming out of the barrel. We ended up running upon a lady that she's never shot a gun before, ever. And him and I just locked in, didn't even speak, and we got the entire story of her standing up there getting coached, shooting, and then we're still able to capture the fireball. We caught rounds ejecting, like we caught this story, and I was like, that's so freaking cool. Like we just went here to like for fun. It was just another veteran that we met. He was like, yeah, sure, come on out. We'll let you take pictures, but like, then we got a whole story about this whole woman's you know, journey of shooting her first ever weapon is now captured in
yeah,
high quality. And I was like, that's so cool, dude. Like, so
I
like
think so.
that's the unexpected part though. Like like you're back to your question. To sum it up is like, my job is not to catch the cool stuff. My job is to make. I'm gonna steal this quote from my teacher, my favorite teacher, is to make the mundane awesome. That's our entire job. Like so many people do an oil change on anything every day, just in like using your software that y'all have created. They know when PMs are due. They know when to grease. They know when to do this, right? Bam, 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 bam. Okay, me as a cameraman or as a videographer, I need to go out and go make that look cool. How? I don't know yet. Well, I know how to do some, but it's like, but that's the whole point. That's why I don't need to go hunt for the really cool things. I need to go hunt for the really mundane things and make them awesome because that is what people can relate to. Because the cool stuff, everyone's gonna see it.
Yeah, and that so I'm just the reason I'm not saying anything quite yet is I'm processing everything you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, and I'm imagining like there's this constant kind of curiosity. You don't go in with like a cookie cutter approach. You'll have your basic fundamentals locked down as far as how you're going to have your equipment ready and all that kind of stuff, but the rest you allow it. You allow for it, and through that entire process you'll you'll catch that magic. And sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't see it until you go review what you've captured later, right?
Yeah, those are the surprise shots. You
Yeah,
go
yeah,
through
it's
2,000 photos and you're like, holy crap, I caught that. That's so cool. It happens.
yeah, that's so now when you do this. Now, by the way, is this something that's available like as a service to people
I
locally?
I really want to push it. Like I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and
Yep.
I really want to do this full time. Like I would like to travel and do it. I would love to go travel and go tell the mechanic's story. You know, and I plan to make it a service. I
Good.
plan to actually probably shut down my mechanic side and focus on media because I think what's the statistic now? 20 40% of our generation, 40% of people are retiring in like 10 years in the blue collar industry. I know every time I see a new article, the number gets bigger or smaller, and it's scary. It's so
Yes.
scary. It's like, and I'm not Gen Z. Still a millennial. So, but I still understand TikTok. I still understand shorts and reels, and I understand what kids want to see. And I just stumbled upon being a mechanic. That doesn't happen. Like it's their grandma or the dad or the grandpa or their uncle was a mechanic, and a lot of mechanics I work with are family mechanics. It's in the bloodline. I'm the weird person that you're like, oh, you come from a semi-privileged household. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, but like, yeah, that's what happened. But I was like, but I'm getting dirty. I'm the dirtiest at the shop because I have to work harder because I know I have to prove myself.
Yeah.
You know, but like I want to continue to push mechanics and show the cool stuff, and show that mundane stuff through media because man, we're hurting.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
This is something there's different groups out there, and I would say everyone that I talk to, whether they're on the podcast or not, there's a really, really big concern about an existing problem that we all feel is only going to get worse unless we start doing something about it and keep doing that thing over and over again. So I'm talking about like the skilled trades gap, the fact that we're going to have, you mentioned it already, that, over the next 5 to 10 years, the number of people that are going to retire and take a lot of knowledge with them. It's not that they want to take it with them.
no,
It's that it's not documented and there's nobody coming in, and it's far less common to have apprenticeships and journeymen. I've seen, like, I'm from a different era where when I went to high school in
yeah,
like the
shop
80s,
class.
I had shop class, I had auto shop, I had this, I had that. I would skip one class to go back to the auto shop, and
Yeah,
instructor would be like, Greg, what are you doing here? And I'd be like, well, so and so said I could cruise down. He's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you can ask him. He knew I was full of shit. I wanted to be there because one of my buddies had that class at a different time and he was working on a set of brakes, and I wanted to
right,
watch, help. It didn't matter. I just wanted to
right.
be in the auto shop. I didn't care about any of that other stuff. And now I see a lot of people making a big push to showcase things like, okay, here's a manufacturing company, and they might have somebody that's their head of marketing that's putting out all these videos about all this cool stuff, the stuff they make. And then I think about what you're doing, where you're showcasing how exciting and impactful all in one kind of magical process, if I could use that,
Yeah,
that
I like that.
shows that this is important. Because there's another thing, and I know I'm blah, blah, blah. I do the
I
same
like
thing.
it.
I just
No,
get
no, it's
going.
good. I talked a bunch.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So this thing with like skilled trades, and then this idea that kids are coming up and thinking, oh, I got to go to college. And then other people saying, yeah, you got to go to college. Don't be going to trade school. Don't turn those wrenches. Like, wait a minute. Some of the people in my life, my entire life, that have been the most successful and the happiest are in the skilled trades. They're mechanics, they work on heavy equipment, they have machine shops or some other type of thing, or they're people that are connected to those industries where they get to constantly deal with a lot of real people, like real.
Mm-hmm.
No joke, not going to give you any BS. They just want to get good stuff done. And we have to keep shouting that from the mountaintops. That's why I like what you're saying, and I want to just keep talking about that, because I think what you do makes an impact for that kid or this kid. They might see it and go, man, that's cool. I want to be involved in that. And that's the spark that we need. And we need it everywhere.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Man, I've ran into some problems with like some companies say they I see a lot of companies cry that they need people. They cry and cry and cry. And I was typing out today trying to like get my words around it and my mind around it too. Leaders and company owners want cheap labor, and they want to bring in the 18-year-old, but then the 18-year-old comes in and he's not getting paid well. And well to you and well to me is much more different, just because they, like, as a kid growing up in high school, I can relate to my little brothers. They're 13, 14, 15, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to be paid YouTube money. And it's not like, and it's like, oh, boys, pump the brakes. First of all, that's 0.0001% of YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, you have to work for it. And with what I've seen with some companies, I've been under 3 different companies so far since I've been out of active duty in National Guard. 2 companies did a very good job of like letting me go and learn, and they really kind of fostered that like fire. They saw it, they're like, cool, but they wouldn't want me to push past just a mechanic. And I think it's hard for companies owners to accept that, like, some people just want to continue to move and progress. And we don't always want to be like, I came into this career for never wanted to be a lifetime mechanic. I don't want to lose my passion for it, for doing it every day. On my LinkedIn, as you read, I love mentoring. I love training people. I do it every day at school right now, and I haven't done it in 2 years, but I'm around a bunch of junior soldiers that are 10 years younger than me. They don't know jack about jack, and they come to me and ask me questions, and I get to be me, Sergeant Bailey, and I get to teach them. That's what I want to do. And there's other people like me that are 18 that just have the energy to burn the world down, and they want to keep going. And there's a lot of companies say, whoa, stop, you can't do that. And so it's like, well, what do you want? Like, you want them to be good workers, you want them to work hard for you, but when they want responsibility, because my generation is not lazy at all.
Right.
Gen Z
Right.
is not lazy at all. We just want to be appreciated that, hey, we want to be like you. We want to be the company owners. We want to be the managers. Train me. Please train me. Like, I want to learn why you price that job that way. I want to learn, why did you order this part, not that part? Why did we do this and not that? And these things, like, I'm curious. I want to learn that stuff. And a lot of I had 2 owners not like that at all, because they're like, whoa, you're trying to take my job? And I was like, no. It's like, no, I'm not trying to take your job. I'm just trying to learn. Like,
That's right.
I just want to learn. Like, I'm just like you. But the gentleman that I was under, they're 40s and 50s, and they don't realize, like, hey, man, I'm just 20, 26, 27 at that time.
Right.
Like, my life is just beginning in the professional trades. I don't want to stay stagnant. And I think that's a lot of companies have that problem at times. Smaller companies. I work for small companies.
Well,
go ahead.
I'll tell you, it happens at all levels, and a lot of this comes down to leadership And to be fair to those individuals, they do get in situations where they can no longer see. Maybe they forget that they were 26 once
Mm-hmm.
and that they had mentors and people that said, yeah, come over here, help me. I can
Right.
remember when I was, I don't know, maybe a teenager and I was interested in what somebody was working on, maybe whether it was a car or something else. And
Mm-hmm.
they'd say, yeah, come on, you can help out. At least you can watch.
Right.
And it was like, cool. Right. And then, so some of these leaders, they're in situations where they can't slow down enough. They get
Yeah.
stuck in this, we've always done it this way kind of a mentality. Whereas I think there's actually a lot of leadership managers, supervisors that when you come to them with that curiosity, that fire you speak of, that, hey, I'm available.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them out there that'll be like, yeah, come here, check it
Right.
out. Let me show you how to do it. Or I've been in situations, and I'm in my 50s, early 50s, just to be,
Mm-hmm.
I ain't
Early.
trying to get any older, any quicker.
57's
But
early. All right. 57's
yeah,
early.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the even for me, I get mentorship from all different spots. People that are younger, people that are older, people that are in positions that we might perceive as being positions of power, whatever. It doesn't matter. This constant collaboration and this idea behind mentorship that you're talking about, that you already really enjoy doing for others, that's what really keeps us all kind of moving in the same direction. I'm
Wow.
talking about everybody. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about everybody, the whole
Absolutely.
nation, the whole world. So like anytime you encounter those people, sometimes you can't break down those barriers and you just kind of got to go, all right, well, what else can I learn here and make the
Mm-hmm.
best of it? But I agree with you that that's an important aspect of what happens as we're coming up and you got these younger folks that think they're going to day two be a YouTube star and everybody can be Mr. Beast. And that just,
Right.
hey, have dreams, strive, but have a plan and a strategy and never stop learning and always stay curious because there's so much you can gain from both learning and being the student and teaching and being a mentor because it
Right.
improves your own knowledge and you learn from them as well. Do you find when you so these younger bucks, guys or gals, doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
um when you're mentoring them and you get to see the kind of those aha moments that they have,
Mm-hmm.
do you also sometimes learn something from them? Like they ask a question, you're like, oh man, that's a good question. I haven't looked at it that way. Did you get that sometimes?
Oh yeah, you get humbled. You get humbled daily. If you don't get
Yeah.
humbled by um, my approach is I'm very relaxed leader. I'm a very relaxed. Um, military, we got a call by ranks, right? And I broke it down to them. I have two friends here that we, circle around. We got couches in our room. We circle around every night pretty much, and we solve the world's problems one beer at a time, right?
Yeah.
And so, but like we're talking about that last night, like exactly what you just said. It's it's God, they're so awesome. It's so fun to watch a kid click, and then like he turns around and says something to you, and you're like, whoa, hey, like that's good. Like exactly it. Like it's everything's clicking. They're clicking. You know, they come back to class that next day or that weekend. Like, hey, look what I did, and they show you, and it's like, yeah, dude, that fires me up. Like
Yeah.
that fires me up, bro. Like let's go. And having I always tell my I have I have 5 guys under me, 4 guys. We are the best squad. We are the best. Are we? They don't know, but I keep telling them we are the best. Like we are the best. We will produce the best because we are doing this together. Because if I get better, you get better. Everyone always gets better. And like I make it like it's a fake it till you make it. And when I first met these guys 4 months ago, these guys were 19. One's a 19, one's 24, one's 27, and one's just turned 20. You know, just turned 20, and but they all been in for 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, and they're all like, I'm like, we are the best. It's like, oh wait, are we really the best? I'm just like, yes, we are the best squad. And they're like, why? And I was like, because we are. And like, that is a part, like, when they started clicking of like, I'm the best, and they keep telling themselves, I'm the best, they just become better. And then they come back to me like, hey man, I think I just did really good. I got a 97 on that test. And
Yeah.
you're like, fuck yes. That's what happens. That's when they start clicking of like, it's mindset. It's 100% mindset. It's not anything. It's, well, take every bad example of leadership you've had and go do the opposite. It's
Yeah.
telling your guys, talking to your guys. It's, and they always stump me. And here has been very tame of like, when you first asked that question, I was like, oh, I have examples that have been caught me, with pants around the ankles, kind of situations that I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, this is so much fun. I'm so glad that you approached me about this. Now we have to deal with this. That's for probably off the podcast. I don't want to,
I hear you.
no,
I hear you.
no ill
Yeah.
stories about, but yes, kids always challenge you. They
Yeah.
always do. And it's awesome. Like, if you get, who cares? Let's go. You got a
Yeah.
problem? Let's solve it. Let's solve this problem. Like, I
See,
don't
now
care.
that right there, that's it. You're talking about mindset, perspective, mentality, approach. I'm kind of big on this idea about your an individual's way of being, how they move through the world, and if they care
Hmm.
about some things. It's okay to care about stuff and be passionate about it, because
Yeah.
at some point it's going to resonate with somebody, and you're going to get to see the benefits of that. Like when you help people out and then you see them doing good stuff, it's like, that's the only reason I was
Right.
doing it in the first place. It's awesome.
And then they do it and they don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah.
And then they come back to you like, hey, you bamboozled me. I'm like, I didn't do shit. I told you the truth. You just didn't understand that that was the truth.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite sayings is, fake motivation is still motivation.
Well, it's better than nothing.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's better than nothing. Like, just lie to yourself.
Yeah.
Lie to
Well,
yourself that you love it.
the
If you have to.
interesting thing on discipline, when I think about discipline and I try to explain it to somebody, I always steal it from Mike Tyson. Everybody knows who Mike Tyson is.
Hmm.
And he said, discipline is doing something you hate as if you love it,
Yep.
which essentially, when you talk about having that fake motivation, you've got to do the things, right?
Yeah.
You just have to. There's no way around it. You got to do the work. When you go to set up shots on a work site where they're working
Right.
on some monstrous piece of equipment, you got to do those things, and you love that part of the process, even if you don't, because
Right.
it's going to get you to those magic moments and the things that you capture. So I want to switch gears a little bit, because I
Cool.
also
What's
want to
up?
be mindful of your time. You're in a different
No,
time
you're
zone, so
you're
I don't.
good. We
All
we can
right,
do Joe
cool.
Rogan style. We can do Rogan style. Go 3 hours if you want to.
I usually cap them at 40 to 60 minutes. So
Cool.
um, the thing I want to ask you about, and I wrote this down, so I've got it written down on the screen here. You are passionate about teamwork and collaboration to achieve remarkable outcomes. And I wanted to ask you, how did that perspective really form for you, and why does it matter
Why does teamwork and collaboration matter?
to achieve remarkable outcomes?
Because I'm not the smartest person in the room. It's, I'm really good at X, you're really good at Y, he's really good at Z, and she's really good at A. Okay. So we need the mission done. We need this project done. Go figure it out on your team. Like, why I loved linking up with Brian and he was so open about it was because he's like, cool, you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, dude. And he's like, sweet. But it was just like, it wasn't the veteran connection. It was a military mindset of like, I do not care what race, I do not care what ethnicity, I do not care what skin, like anything, your sexuality. You want to do this and I want to do this. We are going to make it work because
Yes.
we are a team. And Brian and I became a team for that day, right? That
Yeah.
is, it, if you're not comfortable with yourself of giving someone credit or asking for help, you're the weakest person in the room. Like, I do not want you on my team. Like, just be humble. Like, I'm not good at writing at all, but I have to have a friend. She always has to check my writing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But she
Yeah.
is not good at videography. So I had to go teach her some videography. It's the same thing. It's like if you if we go back to what you do and you are when during your experiences, well, let me see what you've been doing this podcast for 2 years, 3 months roughly. You've
Yep.
been you're and since '94, you've been a VP of sales and business for a development company. You've been in the software industry since as long as I've been alive. You are not the best at one thing,
Right.
but one thing you're really good at. So the companies that you've worked for, they put you on teams of like, hey guys, we have this project, we are making it. We are trying to decrease downtime. We are trying to make it so customer relationships build. We're trying to cut costs. We're trying to do all this. Okay, those are 4 goals. Go figure it out.
Yeah.
So everyone was humble on that team of like, hey, I'm really good at this. Are you really good at that? Yeah, that's it. It applies to the life. It's
Yeah.
like I'm never going at this alone. Like why? I
You
don't need all
can't
the glory.
you can't and it's sound advice basically is what I'm saying. Is this is sound advice in that you're going to get a hell of a lot further down the road. You're going to accomplish a hell of a lot more with a team that has
Yeah.
the various skills and overall similar mindset, but the willingness to do what they do and also lift others around them. And you get all this kind of cross collaboration and learning and whatever you want to call that. That's how it really happens. I mean, I'll give you a good example. I happen to know that while you're on the job site and getting these great images and documenting this great story, you were also while you're there, yeah, hold this pry bar because I'm
Of
doing
course.
this over here, and that's the same kind of stuff. I mean, I think about it all the time. Um, I don't want like all the glory and all that, even in my business life,
Mm-hmm.
with regards to like the software company
Mm-hmm.
or the company prior with the building maintenance company that we built. I always wanted to be like the number two guy, so that I can do what I do, but I don't have to deal with all that top heavy stuff, all that
Yeah.
crazy administrative stuff and all that. I just want to get a bunch of stuff done. And we all really do. So I'm going to switch it to something else. I got 3 kind of fun questions that I typically ask. I don't know if you know what they are, but I'm going to hit you with these. First one, what is your favorite music?
Right now, I'm bouncing between country, EDM, metalcore. I listen to almost everything. What's I really been on? I've been on like this like Japanese car music that's just like it's like a vibe in the way like it's just like instrumental bass and it's like when I'm writing, I'll just put that on. It's like 1 hour long playlist and just crank out, editing, crank out whatever, and it's just been listening to that like lo-fi. It's a bunch of lo-fi. Yeah, so it's my music
Cool.
choices.
Very
I'll
cool.
tell
Very
you
cool.
whenever I got to listen to it.
All right. All right. Next one is favorite sport or hobby. And if it's a sport, it does not have to be one that you play. It could be one that you like to observe, follow, and kind of support.
Sport, not a big sport guy.
All right.
Um, Definitely after 2020 and seeing how the uh, big industry of MLB, NFL kind of took their stance on this. I was like, I haven't watched a football game in like 8 weeks, and I have not cared.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like it's learning your priorities in life. I was like, I don't really care. Um, I'm a bit of a nerd though, and I like to follow like esports.
All
Um,
right.
and some like I was big on like League of Legends esports for a long time. Um, I like watching that stuff for sports, and they're the weirdest athletes you ever seen. But like, if you ever learn how to play those games, that they're just are insane the capabilities.
Yeah.
But hobbies, hobbies are right now. My hobbies are being a dad. I got
Yeah.
my daughter. My daughter's 3 right now, so I get home, I work, and then we are playing hide and go seek in the house, or
Yep.
you know, or we go out to the toolbox and pull out wrenches and we organize wrenches.
Cool.
So yeah, that's a hobby. But we do hiking though. We live in
All right.
Fayetteville. We have beautiful mountains, so we go hike.
Very good. Very good. And then here's the last question I typically ask on the fun question segment, and that is there's no right or wrong answers on this. What is your perspective or philosophy on the idea of work-life balance?
I just I just emailed someone today to interview them for narrative over work life balance. Um, that's funny. I If you ask my wife, it's 40 hours a week and that's it for work life. For work. For me, I take the Alex Hormozy approach that there's seasons of work and seasons of learning and seasons of play. And when the fire's hot, you gotta go. You gotta work, man. And I mean, it's for me. It's if I gotta pull 14-hour shifts, sleep in the truck, wake up, and go back at it again on this machine. That's what happens. That's what the customer needs. You know. But it's and if I gotta travel, like right now, I say I'm a season of work and learning because I'm constantly learning this new skill. But it's there is a balance, but I still think I'm a little too young to actually care about relaxing.
All
You
right.
know, um, I don't know. I give myself like a week off, and then um, there is some people want less, but what work life balance are you working for yourself? Are you working for a company that they care about you and you care about them, or are you working a dead end job? Because obviously your work life balance for a dead end job is going to be like I'm going to work 30 hours a week if I have to and I just pay my bills and now I got all this extra time. Or if you're doing something that you're passionate about, is it work?
Good point.
You know,
Good point.
it's
Like
it
if you're out doing shoots all the time,
ah,
and maybe there's such dramatic badass shoots that the whole family gets to go with you. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
saying in the future
absolutely.
that's not even
Yeah,
work.
exactly. Yeah, if I could talk to yeah, if a company's like, "Hey, you want to come out and shoot this? We're in XYZ." I'm like, "Hey, do you want to like grab 2 more plane tickets?" And they're like, "Oh, okay, we'll put you in a hotel." And so then the wife and daughter can go out to insert cool place, then yeah, it's work, but then at least you can take a day or two,
We
you
might have
know.
to we might have to talk about that a little bit more on a future episode. We're going to be keeping an eye on your journey because I've got some ideas. We can't talk about them here because I don't want nobody stealing those ideas. These are going to
Hey,
be
I
just for
appreciate it.
you. Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, but I that's my philosophy. It's all about it's well, like I said, we're gonna wrap it right back into it. It's mindset. It's your choices. It's leadership. It's your job. Like that's what it is. Or if you're deployed like I've been, you don't get a choice and you just work, you know,
Yeah.
7 days a week, 12-hour shifts, and get bent. like get bent. Like too bad, buddy. Like
Yeah.
we're hit port in about a month and a half. You get to go enjoy a beer. So
There
like
you go. It is what it is, right?
yeah,
It's that's the reality of the all hands on deck. Everybody that uses that term that doesn't understand it, they just don't understand. Yeah, that's all hands on deck and it's for 6 straight weeks.
yeah.
Nonstop. I mean, it's I personally like when it comes to like military, and by the way, thanks for your service. And I think there's some unique aspects to it that really kind of fuel and foster the approach you have to not just life but how you do things, how you break things down, how you build things back up, and how you have more of a tendency to not get stuck because you've been in a sense brought up in a system that actually makes it so that you don't get stuck, that you know that it's really all about keep going, Keep going.
Yeah. Military did a very big role into it. I was a military brat. My dad did way more time than I care to admit. So I had him as a service member when I was a kid, and his job was, as a pilot. So I always been around very like-minded individuals that would never succumb to it's okay or it's good enough. Like every one of his
Right.
friends were top-notch leaders, pilots, you know, and okay was never okay. That's get like they didn't you were not allowed in that group. You were not allowed to come over and meet their families if you were just okay. So I had that mentality as a kid,
Yeah.
and so that truly fostered, that flower, I guess you would say, that truly fostered. But then going into the military and going on my own endeavors, it just amplified it because, I mean,
Yeah. It's
you
good
know,
stuff. It's good stuff. Well, what I'm going to do is wrap the show up and stay on with me for a couple of seconds. But I want to let everybody know, if you want to get in touch with Jake Bailey, you can reach out to him at risingeagleFieldServices@gmail.com. So you're going to smush that all together, risingeagleFieldServices@gmail.com. And Jake, I want to thank you for joining me on CMMS Radio to share what we know so far of your journey
yeah.
story.
And then we could plug the Instagram. It's like all my photos I've been doing is my Instagram is at Capture the Dragon. And that is where my reels and my photos, like my favorite selects, go out, and I try to keep that updated every few days. So if you want to see the job site photos, it is where they're at.
Rising Eagle Media, your go-to for visual storytelling in the trades. Work with someone who gets it. Visit risingeaglemedia.com. It's a veteran-owned and operated company. You'll be working with Jake Bailey. He's a tradesman that has done the work, and he has a passion that shines through in all of his work. Reach out to Jake Bailey to get on schedule and tell him CMMS Radio sent you. You can see a sample of his powerful visual creations at risingeaglemedia.com. Make the trades great again with Jake Bailey and Rising Eagle Media. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.